All right, 8th grade. Today we are doing notes on Lewis structure rules for molecules. Okay, so I want you to write that down. Okay, so if you need, at any time you need more time to write something down, please raise your hand and have the substitute pause the video. Okay, so I'm sorry if at any point you can't see this very well. My camera is not that great. All right, so we have been talking about last week, okay, how to represent bonds using Lewis dot structure. Okay, so you guys are already pretty familiar with how to represent an element using Lewis dot structure. So Lewis dot structure shows you how many valence electrons something has, and using Lewis dot structure to illustrate covalent bonds, you can see where their valence electrons are bonded to each other. Okay, now to remind you, and again, this should be in your notes from the other day, anytime you see a line like this, it represents a bond. Okay, these are shared electrons, and it represents 2 electrons. Okay, so a line represents 2, and unshared electrons are represented as dots. Okay, all right, so we're going to get into these steps here. We're going to do a little bit of practice today, and then we'll go over it together. This and the sheet we were working on the other day that had electronegativity on it tomorrow in class, okay? All right, so the first step is you're going to add up all of the valence electrons for the atoms in the molecule, okay? So you can write down what this person has here. Okay, so we have PCl3. Okay, P is phosphorus, and Cl is chlorine. Now, how might you remember how to find out how many valence electrons something has? Well, you guys have a sheet that should look like this. Okay, so at this time, maybe pause the video and find this sheet, get this sheet out. And or your periodic table sheet, because some of you, I think, had written this information on your periodic table, okay? All right, so at this time, everybody should have this sheet found, okay? All right, so again, if not everybody has it out, please pause the video until everybody finds it. All right, so we have PCl, okay? So P represents phosphorus, Cl represents chlorine. Now, using our valence electron chart, we know that P, or phosphorus, has 5 valence electrons, and Cl, or chlorine, has 7. Now, previous to this, we were not paying attention to this number here, right? Last class, I was telling you to ignore this number. Now we're going to start paying attention to this number, because this is relevant to how many total valence electrons a molecule has. So we don't just have 1 chlorine, we have 3 chlorines. So we actually need to multiply 7 times 3 to tell us we have 21 total electrons. Okay, so we have 21 electrons plus the 5 from phosphorus. Okay, we get a total of 26 electrons. Okay. All right, now we're going to write the symbol for atoms to show which atoms are connected and which, just using that single line that I was talking about before. All right, this is important. Okay, I would write down this line right here. Okay, the central atom is usually written first in the molecular formula. Okay, so I know that I'm supposed to write the P in the middle when I'm drawing this because it comes first. Okay, so I would write that down. All right, so on my paper, I'm going to write P in the middle. Okay, and I'm going to write my chlorine. I have 3 chlorine because it says Cl3 around it. All right, so I'm going to connect these, okay, to my phosphorus using a line. All right, now we're going to do a used electron tally. All right, so we started with 26 electrons. Okay, 26 electrons. And we just used 6 of them. Now, you might be wondering, how is that 6? Well, remember, a line represents 2. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 26 minus 6 means we now have 20 electrons. Okay? So we've used 20 so far. All right. Now we're going to complete the octet of the atoms bonded to the central atom. Now remember, octet just means 8 because each element, each atom wants to have 8 valence electrons. That's its favorite number. It's constantly trying to achieve that. Okay? So we're going to fill in the rest with 8. Now remember, we're not going to do more than 2 on each side. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to say, okay, I already have 2 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, this one now has 8. So I already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That one now has 8. Then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? All right, now, we've already subtracted the 6 that came from the lines. Now I'm going to subtract the dots I just added. And the amount of dots I just added was 18. Okay, so 20 minus 18, I now have 2 electrons left. All right, so what am I going to do with those last 2 electrons? The last step is I'm going to place any electrons left on the central atom, even if doing so results in more than a full octet. Okay, so I'm going to do my last 2. I'm going to put them there. Okay, I'm going to put them there. So I just added 2 minus 2 electrons, so now 0. Now I've used all of my electrons. Now, there's some other rules that we're going to talk more about in person. Like sometimes if there's not enough electrons to give the central atom a full octet, you have to try different bonds, okay, to get it to do that. Like here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so the central atom's happy. It has its full octet. Here, they had to move some stuff around, okay? But we're going to just start with some easier ones here. So if you happen across something where like something funky like this is happening in your practice for today, just skip over that one and we'll see if we can go over it in class tomorrow, okay? All right, and then we'll be adding something later on talking about charges, but that is not necessary for today. All right, what you guys are going to be doing today, you should have a sheet like this that if she hasn't passed out already, or he, I forget who the substitute is, please pass it out at this time. Okay, so drawing covalent compounds. Okay, I'm going to do 1 or 2 examples with you now. Okay, then you're going to do a few on your own. Okay? All right, so our first one here is H2. So I'm going to write that down here, H2. Now remember, we're starting to pay attention to how many of something there is. Okay, so I know from my valence electron chart that H has 1 valence electron. Okay, so H has 1 and H has 1. So add that together. There's 2 total valence electrons. All right, now, this one's easy. So the first element that is listed is the central element. Well, here there's only 1, and that one's H. So picking the middle one is easy. That's H. Okay, then my next one is also going to be H. That's connected. Okay, then I'm going to go through and show any bonds. So the first step is I'm going to bond this one to this one. Okay, and remember a line represents 2. So we're trying to use up all 2. Well, look at that. We've already used our 2. So it's as simple as that. Okay, that one's a very simple one to demonstrate. Okay, if you need to pause, kind of pause the video before we continue. Okay, I'm going to do one that's a little more complicated. Or we have HCl. So we already know that H has just one valence electron. Okay, and if you look up on your chart, you can see Cl has 7. So 7 plus 1 equals 8. Okay, so we write the first element down in the middle. So I have H, and then I have Cl. Okay, and I'm going to show those with a connection like this. Okay, so I just used 2 of my 8. So I have 6 left over. Okay, now I'm going to fill in the rest of the octet of the other atom. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 7, 8 is the line. And look at that, I just used everything. Okay, so that is how you would write it for HCl. Now, my guess is this isn't going to be that simple for all of these for you. Okay, I want you guys to try every one. I want you to try, okay? I want you to have something written down, even if you're not sure if it's correct. If you guys need to help each other, that's fine. Okay. Now remember, when we get down here to these ones right here, we're doing the same steps, but remember, the central one, the one you write in the middle, is always the first one. Okay, so that's your clue for these. The rest of the steps are pretty self-explanatory. All right, I want you guys to try your best. I know this is something that's new to you, so it's something that might be a little bit difficult for some of you, maybe easier for others. That's okay if it's difficult. It's new and you haven't practiced it yet, so that's why it's hard, okay? All right, I hope you guys are doing well, and I will see you in class tomorrow.